Now, in West Africa, Nigeria, we're going to take our time to read through most part of this letter from Chimamanda Adichie to President Joe Biden, which has her own point of view of the February 25th Nigerian presidential elections that has caused a series of reactions from a lot of persons and has put the internet in a little bit of heat. But first, who is Chimamanda Adichie? Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie is a Nigerian born in September 15, 1977, Enugu, Nigeria. A prolific writer whose second novel, Half of a Yellow Sun, 2006, gained international acclaim for its depiction of the devastation caused by the Nigerian Civil War. Her novels, short stories, and non-fiction explore the intersections of identity. Notable works from her include Americana, For Love of Biafra, Half of a Yellow Sun, Notes on Grief, Purple Hibiscus, The Thing Around Your Neck, We Should All Be Feminists, and many more.
Well, we're taking a look at the letter Chimamanda Adichie. She titles it Nigeria's Hollow Democracy. Why is America congratulating the winner of these disastrous elections? Well, it starts with, Dear President Biden, something remarkable happened on the morning of 25th of February, the day of the Nigerian presidential election. Many Nigerians went out to vote, holding in their hearts a new sense of trust, cautious trust, but still trust. Since the end of military rule in 1999, Nigerians have had little confidence in elections. To vote in a presidential election was to brace yourself for the inevitable aftermath, the fraud.
Well, in this long episode from Chimamanda to President Biden, she says elections would be rigged because elections were always rigged. The question was how badly. Sometimes voting felt like an inconsequential gesture as predetermined winners were announced. A law passed last year, the 2022 Electoral Act, changed everything. It gave legal backing to the electronic accreditation of voters and the electronic transmission of results, in a process determined by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. In a letter, Chimamanda Adichie further spoke on the chair of the commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, assuring Nigerians that votes would be counted in the presence of voters and recorded in a result sheet, and that a photo of the signed sheet would immediately be uploaded to a secure server. But rumors circulated about the commission not keeping its word.
Well, the profound writer, in her letter to Biden, stated that if results were uploaded right after voting was concluded, then the ruling party, the All Progressive Congress, the APC, which has been in power since 2015, would have no opportunity for manipulation. Technology would redeem Nigeria's democracy. Results would no longer feature more votes than voters. Nigerians would no longer have their leaders chosen for them. Elections would finally capture the true voice of the people, fostering trust and hope. Well, according to her, she says, by the evening of February 25th, 2023, that trust had dissipated, she wrote. She stated series of irregularities and violence that went on throughout the nation Nigeria on that fateful day, saying no one was surprised when, by the morning of the 26th, social media became flooded with evidence of falsification and replacement of original figures, which was done in a shabby manner that resulted or that insulted the intelligence of Nigerians. Well, it is ironic that many images of altered result sheets showed votes overwhelmingly being transferred from one party, which is the Labour Party, to the APC. According to her, she says, Nigerian democracy had long been a two-party structure. Power alternated between the APC and the People's Democratic Party, which was until this year, when the Labour Party, led by Peter Obi, became a third force. She says Obi was different. He seemed honest and accessible, and his vision of anti-corruption and self-sufficiency gave rise to a movement of supporters who called themselves obedient. Unusually large, enthusiastic crowds turned up for his rallies.
While explaining in her letter what the Nigerian presidential elections was like, she mentioned that as vote counting began at INEC, representatives of different political parties, except for the APC, protested. There were too many discrepancies. There is no point progressing in error, Mr. Chairman. We are racing to nowhere, stating what one party spokesperson said to Yakubu Mahmood. Let us get it right before we proceed with the collation. But the INEC chair, opaque-faced and lordly, she says, refused. The counting continued swiftly until at 4:10 a.m. on March 1st, the ruling party's candidate Bola Tinubu was announced as president-elect. A subterranean silence reigned across the country. Few people celebrated. Many Nigerians were in shock. It seemed truly perplexing that in the context of a closely contested election in a low-trust society, the Electoral Commission would ignore so many glaring red flags. In its rush to announce a winner, it had the power to pause vote counting to investigate irregularities as it would do in the governorship elections 2 weeks later, her letter read.
She continued to say rage is brewing, especially amongst young people. The discontent, the despair, the tension in the air have not been there palpable in years. She says, how surprising then to see the U.S. State Department congratulate Tinubu on the first day of March. American intelligence surely cannot be so inept to a little homework, and they would know what is manifestly obvious to me and to many others. The process was impelled not by technical shortcoming, but by deliberate manipulation. While Chimamanda goes on to say, an editorial in the Washington Post echoed in an oddly infantilizing tone, as though intended to mollify the simple-minded, saying, and I quote, officials have asserted that technical glitches, not sabotage, were the issue. That much good came from the Nigerian election, which are worth celebrating. The electoral has the imaginative poverty, so characteristics of international coverage of African issues, no reading of the country's mood, no nuisance or texture, but its intellectual laziness, unusual in such a rigorous newspaper, is astonishing. She then asks, since when does a respected paper unequivocally ascribe to begin malfunction something that may very well be malignant just because government officials say so? There is a kind of cordial condescension in both the State Department and the Washington Post, the response to the election, that the bar for what is acceptable has been lowered, can only be read as contempt.
Well, her letter goes on to read that I hope, President Biden, that you do not personally share this cordial condescension. You have spoken of the importance of global community for democracy and the need to stand up for justice and the rule of law. A global community for democracy cannot thrive in the face of apathy from its most powerful member. Why would the United States, which prioritizes the rule of law, endorse a president-elect who has emerged from an unlawful process? She asked in the letter. Compromise is an ubiquitous word in Nigeria's political landscape. It is used to mean bribed, but also means corrupted, and more generally, they have been compromised, Nigerians will say. So explains so much that is wrong, from infrastructure failures to unpaid pensions. Many believe that the INEC chair has been compromised, but there is no evidence of the astronomical US dollar amounts he is rumored to have received from the president-elect. The extremely wealthy Tinubu is himself known to be an enthusiastic participant in the art of compromising. Some Nigerians call him a drug baron because in 1993, she says in her letter, he forfeited to the United States government $460,000 of his income that a Chicago court determined to be proceeds from heroin trafficking. Tinubu has strongly denied all charges of corruption. She says, in a letter she writes, I hope it will not surprise you, President Biden, if I argue that the American response to the Nigerian election also bears the faint taint of that word compromised, because it is so removed from the actual situation in Nigeria as to be disingenuous. Has the United States once again decided that what matters in Africa is not democracy but stability? Perhaps you could tell British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who quickly congratulated Tinubu, that an illegitimate government in a country full of frustrated youths does not portend stability.
Well, she goes on to say the battle for influence in Africa will not be won by supporting the same undemocratic processes for which China is criticized. She says this Nigerian election was supposed to be different, and the U.S. response must not be business as usual. That is what she's trying to emphasize in the whole of the letter. Now, she says this election is also about the continent. Nigeria is a symbolic, crucial place in Africa. Lawlessness has consequences. Every day, Nigerians are coming out into the streets to protest the election. APC, uneasy about a third victory, is sounding shrill and desperate. As though still in campaign mode, it has accused the opposition party of treason, an unintelligent smear, easily disapproved and disquieting nonetheless, because false accusations are often used to justify malicious state action.
Well, in her very extensive letter to Joe Biden, she summarily said, congratulating its outcome, President Biden tarnishes America's self-proclaimed commitment to democracy. Please do not give the sheen of legitimacy to an illegitimate process. The United States should be what it says it is. There is no need further explaining her rationale behind this letter. With that, she summarized. Because with as much information and detail from the letter we just read you, from Chimamanda Adichie to Joe Biden, you get the rationale behind it. But as we said, this letter from her to Joe Biden has stirred up diverse reaction in the last few days, and especially from the representatives of the Nigerian political party slightly attacked in the letter.
Well, here we have a spokesperson for the All Progressive Congress President's Campaign Council, Bayo Onanuga, describing her letter as fiction, which is said was inspired by the monumental loss of her tribesman Peter Obi. Well, Onanuga, who has been critical of decent voices against the election, urged President Joe Biden of the United States of America to trash the letter once it gets to his desk. The former managing director of the news agency of Nigeria said this on Friday in a post on Twitter. He says, "Dear President Joe Biden, please just trash the letter, the open letter by Chimamanda in Nigeria's election once it gets to your desk. She wrote fiction inspired by the monumental loss of her tribesman, Peter Obi. We can't help that, but notice the use of the word tribesman. One too commonly used by most corrupt governments is a bid to divide and rule. Is tribalism, else why do these leaders make their injustice done to democracy in Nigeria more about tribalism than what it is, really?"
Well, following suit, we also have the chief spokesperson for the Bola Tinubu Presidential Campaign Council, PCC, Festus Keyamo San, in an article described Adichie's letter as, quote, petty, and accused her of being a, quote, bitter supporter of sore losers, posing as concerned citizens, but in reality actuated by ethnic politics, he says. He also claimed that Adichie's letter lacked credibility, stating that it would not be considered worthy enough for the attention of even a stenographer to an undersecretary in the U.S. But then you could already see the commotion it has caused in the last few days. And adding to his lash out at Adichie, he conclusively said the letter was reflective of a pathetic colonial mentality, quote, and accused Adichie of seeking validation from a foreign power. Well, you've heard this APC's representatives, and you've heard the letter from Chimamanda Adichie, one we read through in detail, and we wonder if everyone else reacting to it really read in detail too. But there you have the reaction of these two APC spokesperson. There are other extreme comments and reactions from the Nigerian's ruling party reps that we think are rather too brash and without much logic to bring to light.
Well, on the flip side, we have Labour Party reps respond to Chimamanda's letter to Biden as well. Valentine Ozugbo, the special advisor to Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi, and the immediate past president and chief executive officer of the Transnational Corporation of Nigeria PLC, praised Adichie for writing the letter, insisting that lawlessness has consequences. He wrote, "Lawlessness has consequences. Nigeria's literary superstar Chimamanda speaks truth." While he tagged all the necessary handles there, tagged POTUS President Biden, tagged The Atlantic, and also tagged Chimamanda as well.
Well, in all this, we are yet to get a response from Joe Biden concerning this very critical letter addressed to him. We can't wait to see what a Democrat thinks of democracy in Africa.